Boom, boom. Here we go once again, guys. Welcome to another live discussion, live talk, live space, live powwow, whatever you want to call it. Welcome to another one with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and we're going to talk once again about our favorite topic, Bitcoin. Lots of fireworks, lots of action happening today. Lots of exciting action, actually. So welcome, come on in. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable wherever you are piping in from the world. Please feel free to tell me where you're coming in from. We always draw an international audience from all over the world, so I like to see where you're from. I hope you're doing safe. The world is not quite a safe place today. It's certainly in certain regions. I'm in constant contact with a variety of people that I know sort of in the hot spots over in the Middle East, and prayers go out to all individuals, irrespective of whatever side you find yourself on. I pray for your safety. Anyway, guys, where are you piping in from? Let me know very quickly. I like to banter just a tiny bit until we get about 200 or 300 people logged in. We've already got close to 160 here, so we'll get talking very shortly here, but in the meantime, let me know where you're piping in from, what part of the world you're coming in from. Make sure you grab the beverage of your choice, maybe even something to take notes with, guys, because we always do some deep dives into some things that are usually worthy to make sure we retain, you know. All right. Finally caught you live, Hodlesat says. All right. USA. Been for a while. Awesome. Welcome, USA. Australia's in the house. Ooh, yes. Michigan in the house. All right. Florida, West Palm Beach. Up in one of my necks of the woods. All right. Great state of Texas. Welcome, Texas. All right. All right. Living in a van. I love that. All right. I love that. In the United States. I love that. Awesome. Freedom. All right. Medellin in the house. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, hermano. Medellin, Toronto, Michigan. Awesome. Again, international audience here. Arizona, welcome. So welcome, guys. We've got about 221 people logged on here. Welcome, Seattle. So, guys, I don't know. Let me just try to show you this. So for the longest while, I had as my profile on X.com, formerly known as Twitter, as you know, I had 13%er as my profile. I want to show you this very quickly here. So as my banner, I should say, I had 13%er. I'll go here and blow the image up a little bit for you. And 13, I always got a lot of questions. Oliver, what do you mean by you're a 13%er? What does that mean? Does that mean that you have 13% allocation to Bitcoin, what have you? No. 13%er was my way of clapping back at, I believe it was Jameson Lopp, whom I respect in a very great way. Jameson Lopp, I do. He is a Bitcoin OG who deserves a great deal of respect. I think many hardcore, for lack of a better term, Bitcoiners were not happy with his company's choice of catering to, initially as a Bitcoin-oriented company, Casa decided to cater to the ETH heads or the Ethereum community as well, and to help Ethereum's custody their ship coin, right? And a lot of us sort of took offense at that. And for whether you agree with that or not, that is exactly what happened. And Jameson Lop at the time, under pressure, under fire by really hardcore Bitcoiners, he clapped back with something. And he basically corroborated the statement of someone else who said that only 13% of all people who have adopted Bitcoin. So out of all the people in the world who've adopted Bitcoin, only 13% are Bitcoin only. So what he was suggesting is that the world that is Bitcoin and shitcoins, okay, altcoins, BS, as far as I'm concerned, that was a far bigger world. And so as a business decision, his company was going to cater to the bigger world. I'm okay with that. That's everyone's choice. But it was my personal decision to leave the company at that particular point. Yes, I was a customer of Casa. That did not mean that I had any less respect for Jameson Lop. I think that his contribution to the Bitcoin community has been extraordinarily huge. But as part of my message that as part of my message that you should be Bitcoin only, whether you agree with that or not, that is my message and will continue to be, that we have enough time in our lives in the future to gamble, to play stupid games, but now is not the time. Our window of opportunity is too small and too short to be distracted away from freedom, away from total financial independence, and to be dealing with other nonsense that's actually the antithesis of that. So my message has always been, let's focus on what matters right now. And when you are completely set and completely free and completely independent, you can gamble and play with stupid shit all you want to, but we don't have time for that right now. So anyway, as part of my message, I decided to go out there in the public and state that I am one of the 13% that Jameson Lop referred to. I'm one of those Bitcoiners that's not part of the larger Bitcoin community. I'm part of the smaller, more elite Bitcoin community that's Bitcoin only and believes that you should not be focused on any other BS out there right now. Okay? There's time for childish things. There's time for gambling. There's time to go to Vegas. This is not the time right now. All right. And so for the longest time, I had as my profile 13 percenter. That's what it meant. Well, I've gone from being a 13 percenter. I've decided to start promoting the idea through my profile that you and I are actually part of another rare group. We're part of the 1 percenters. And what this communicates, people, is the fact that there is still, you've heard me say this many times, there's less than 1%. Actually, there's less than half of 1%, but let's go with the more generous number. There's less than 1% of all human beings on planet Earth have recognized Bitcoin and have adopted it as a store of value or in some form or another. Okay? Less than 1%. That means that 99% of the world is still asleep, is still ignorant to what Bitcoin is, that still does not understand that the opportunity of a lifetime, an opportunity that comes to human beings on average once every 1,000 years or so, is upon us, but yet it is disappearing at the speed of light virtually week by week, and that our window of time is closing. So 99% of the entire world is blind to this. Only 1% or less has awakened. And I will tell you that that makes us extraordinarily rare as 1 percenters. That makes us still extraordinarily early. That still makes us the VIPs, the elites of the future, the in Christian scriptures, it says the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, the 1 percenters in this case represent the meek. they will inherit the earth. In my opinion, that's my 2 cents in the future. But the opportunity to be one of those 1%ers is rapidly closing. The opportunity to actually get yourself to a position where you have more than one Bitcoin is gone for most people already. 99% of the world is asleep. They don't even know that the opportunity to get to one full Bitcoin is gone for them because they're asleep. But even the people who are aware, even the people who are actually part of the 1%, many of the 1%ers are locked out of the possibility of ever having one Bitcoin ever, forever. Even the 1%ers, a big percentage of the 1%ers are locked out of that opportunity. That's how rare the 1%ers are, and that's how rare a full Bitcoiner is today, and will increasingly become more and more rare as time goes on. It used to be common back in 2010 for someone to have 100,000 Bitcoin, 50,000 Bitcoin. That wasn't that uncommon. 10,000, 5,000, that was normal. We heard of the pizza guy. I can't remember his name, starts with an N, but anyway, we've heard he's become infamous at this particular point. We've heard of the pizza guy who bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. Well, what a lot of people don't realize, people, is that he bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, but he continued to buy 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin until all the Bitcoin that he had in cold storage was gone. A lot of people fail to realize the second part of the story. They focus on his first purchase, but his goal was to buy pizza until all of the Bitcoin that he had in cold storage was gone. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that in total, he gave away close to 90,000 Bitcoin, buying pizza with 90,000 Bitcoin. But understand, people, that at this particular time, it wasn't so uncommon for someone to have 40, 50, 60,000 Bitcoin. Today, it is exceedingly rare to run into someone, to know someone that has 90,000 Bitcoin. Countries, not even countries in large numbers have 90,000 Bitcoin. All right. So, so it was common back then to have 90,000, 50,000. Today, it is almost unheard of. Not totally, but almost unheard of. There was a time in the following cycle, after the 10,000 or more Bitcoin cycle, there was a time where having more than 1,000 Bitcoin, the following cycle was having more than 1,000 Bitcoin was normal. So if someone had 6,000 Bitcoin, 5,000 Bitcoin, 8,000 Bitcoin, that was normal. They were in the single digit thousands. So before they were in the double digit thousands, one cycle, that's the pizza cycle. Then the next cycle came, and that it was very rare to find someone that had double digit thousands. You found easily people who had single digit thousands. Do you understand? And so the cycle after the pizza cycle was the single digit thousand cycle. The following cycle, it wasn't easy to find someone that had single digit thousands. It wasn't easy after the next cycle to find someone who had 3,000, 2,000, 6,000, 8,000 Bitcoin. But it was relatively easier to find someone who had 200, 300, 700 Bitcoin. You see? And then the following cycle came where it was very exceedingly rare to know someone who had 6,000, 4,000, 300. I mean, 600, 700, 300 Bitcoin. That it was more rare, it was more common that they had 20 Bitcoin or 30 Bitcoin or 15 Bitcoin. And in this cycle, it is exceedingly rare to know someone who has 15 Bitcoin or 20 Bitcoin or 30 Bitcoin. It is more common that you might find someone with one. The following cycle, we're in the one Bitcoin cycle. The following cycle, next cycle, you will never be able to find someone with one Bitcoin, someone you know, someone in your community, someone in your family. It'll be exceedingly rare next cycle to find someone with one Bitcoin. We'll be talking about someone with a quarter, with a half, with an eighth of a Bitcoin, with a tenth of a Bitcoin. There will be people with multiple tenths of a Bitcoin, but it will be very hard to find someone with one complete Bitcoin next cycle. And then the cycle after that, you won't find fractions. You'll find fractions of a fraction. So the big fractions, 3/4, a half, a quarter, they're all gone. You won't find many people with a quarter or a half 2 cycles from now. You'll find the Satoshi level. Quarters won't be talked about now. Do you understand? Then you won't be talking about half a Bitcoin, 3/4 of a Bitcoin, certainly not one Bitcoin. You won't even be talking about a quarter of a Bitcoin. You'll be talking in smaller digits. And so, in the same way, people, that back in the first cycle, when people had tens of thousands, when it was normal for tens of thousands of Bitcoin, people buying nonsense for tens of thousands, 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. During that cycle, one Bitcoin was very disrespected. You would never announce that you had one Bitcoin in that cycle. That was so ridiculous. Imagine that 10,000 Bitcoin was barely worth 2 pizzas, nothing. So if you said you had one Bitcoin, that was like saying you had a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny. Nobody just had one. And so one Bitcoin was disrespected. Is one Bitcoin disrespected today? No. What's disrespected today? A Satoshi. That's disrespected. Do you understand that we're going to a place where one Satoshi will no longer be disrespected? One Bitcoin was disrespected in the past. In the future, now one Satoshi is disrespected, and in the future, one Satoshi won't be disrespected. Oh, we're going there. And some people say, Oliver, come on, one Satoshi is like such a small fraction of a penny. Well, one Bitcoin was such a small fraction of a penny too. And we went there. Now one Bitcoin is worth 61,000 US dollars. We're going to a place where one Satoshi matters. It's just simple maths. All right. So this notion that you are, since you might not be able to get to one Bitcoin, this notion that you're late is still false because less than 1% is in. And with this 1%, this less than 1% made one Bitcoin rare. Less than 1% helped to create or bring about the best performing asset in all of recorded history. Less than 1%. Less than 1% helped to foster the most secure network humans have ever come in contact with, who've ever had access to. Less than 1% has made the hardest money, the hardest asset humans have ever experienced in all of humanity. So imagine where Bitcoin's going to be at 3%. Just put that in perspective. We went from 0 to 61,000, from being nothing to the best performing asset in all of human recorded history. With less than 1%, we beat every single thing by orders of magnitude, every single thing that humans have ever held dear, ever given importance to. With less than 1%, Bitcoin became the 10th most valuable asset on earth. With less than 1% adoption, Bitcoin has become more valuable than every single financial organization on planet Earth, every single bank, every single insurance company, every single money manager, every single mutual fund, every single ETF, every single financial entity in the entire world is not even close to the value of this thing that has only 1%, less than 1% adoption. Imagine where it's going to be if we triple that adoption. Imagine where we'll be at 3%. Imagine where Bitcoin's going to be at 10%, 60%. Look, let me show you something. Take a look at this. Here is a chart of the most adopted things over the past 100 and, I don't know, 24, 25 years. Okay? You see it? I'll make myself small here. And so what you see here is going back all the way from the 1990s. You have the telephone, all right? You have TV, you've got everything from electricity here, radio, cars, color TV, the PC, the smartphone, the fridge, the microwave, everything here. Now, I want you to notice where Bitcoin is on the far right-hand side, far lower right-hand side. Do you see that? That's how early you are. That's how early we are. Now, I think it's important to understand, people, that everything that is adopted by human beings never stops being adopted. Did you hear what I just said? When human beings start to adopt something and that thing starts to gain network effects, it never stops being adopted. And I've gone over this before. And one reason that humans never stopped adopting it is because every single day there is a net new 250,000 new human beings on Earth. So if we were to take all the births every day on average and we subtract the number of all the deaths, you have left on average 250,000 new human beings on Earth that are ready to, these are new computer users. 250,000 new computer users, 250,000 language speakers, new language speakers, mostly English, 250,000 new users of the mathematical protocol. They'll use the number 0 and 1 through 9. All right. 250,000 new internet users, 250,000 new car owners, 250,000 new flight takers, 250,000 new Bitcoiners, users of the internet. Do you follow what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons why things never stop being adopted, ever, because the human race grows. But on top of the new human beings coming here by 250,000 a clip every day, even if we were to put that aside for now, we're only at less than 1% of the existing human beings. So if another single human being never joined planet Earth, we've still got 99% plus of all the 8 billion people on Earth still having to adopt Bitcoin. And how do we know it's going to be adopted? Because it's the hardest money the world has ever known. And throughout history, humans go to the hardest money. It's the scarcest item on Earth. Over time, humans just naturally, it's something in our DNA, we adopt the scarcest thing. We are naturally drawn to and will only ultimately accept the hardest money on earth. This is how gold was chosen, silver at one point, then gold was chosen. Whatever is the hardest money, naturally markets in the world gravitate to the hardest thing. What do I mean by the hardest thing? The hardest thing to replicate, the hardest thing to reproduce. So Bitcoin is the hardest item on earth. It is harder to reproduce a Bitcoin than it is harder to produce an ounce of gold, an ounce of silver, or to even produce an S&P 500 company. So S&P 500 companies have a hardness to them. Not every company can be one of the 500, but it has a hardness to it. But Bitcoin's harder than becoming an S&P 500 company. Bitcoin is the hardest item on planet Earth, and humans naturally gravitate to the hardest thing. It has happened throughout all of human history. Also, every discovery, and I've always told you that Bitcoin is not an invention, it's a discovery. It's the discovery of digital hardness and digital scarcity. Yes, Satoshi Nakamoto put some contraptions together, and this contraption helped discover digital scarcity and digital hardness, but they always existed. Don't confuse the contraption that helped discover digital hardness and digital scarcity with the hardness and scarcity itself. And as a discovery, discoveries can only happen once. That's why I don't believe in ship coins. They're just sad, scammy attempts to replicate a discovery. If someone came to you and said, listen, dude, man, I've got a better fire for you. F that fire we've had for thousands of years, millions, based on some scientists, millions of years. F that one. Forget that one. I've got a better fire for you. This fire puts that fire to shame. It burns shit faster than the old fire. That fire is 4 million years old. This is the new fire, dude. This will burn your house down faster than the old fire. That's the old granddaddy fire. We need the new fire now. How silly is that shit? Discoveries are never old. They are forever new, and we are forever finding ways to use discoveries. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're still adopting fire today. We're still discovering ways that fire is changing human life. We're still discovering ways that electricity over 600 years, not 600 years old, but it was discovered. The human use for electricity was discovered about 600 years ago. We're still adopting electricity. There's still people with no electricity 600 years later. I've given you an even more common example. Commercial air flight, which is on this chart somewhere. Air travel, you see that? Air travel, all right? So air travel is one of the first lines. I believe it's the second. Air travel. They have air travel at 1930. This is not correct because commercial air flight started in 1901, 1903, but it's neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to say is that despite being about 123 years old, that industry, right? Only 1 in every 4 human beings have ever been on a plane. So air travel, as old as it is still young in its adoption phase. 1 in every 4 human beings have ever been on a plane. Do you understand the future adoption of air travel is huge? In addition to 75% of all humans have yet to be on a plane. There's 250,000 new humans every single day added to that number. The internet, one of the fastest adopted technologies on earth. Why? Because it digitized our lives. It moved our life from the analog world to the digital world. Do you understand what the internet did? The internet allowed us to discover a new world, a new frontier, if you will. And this new frontier, for lack of a better phrase, was called the digital world. And so follow me. Some of you've heard me talk about this, but follow me carefully. The internet opened up the same way I'd imagined that some people believe that Christopher Columbus's voyages to the United States, to the new America, the Americas, right, opens up America to the European part of the world. And so, in a sense, Christopher Columbus's voyagers were like the internet that opened the world up to a new frontier. That new frontier was dubbed the Americas. Well, the internet was the voyage or the piece of technology, right? First it was a ship, now it's the piece of this technology was the internet that introduced a new world, a new Americas, the new Americas to the world, called the digital frontier. And this world became available for us to enter. And this new digital world began to suck our old lives into it. And so you lost your physical pictures to the new world. Your physical analog pictures, your albums that you used to flip through, or your grandmother used to flip through and save pictures of you playing baseball and your Christmases and your Thanksgivings and that. When's the last time you've held a freaking album? When's the last time you flipped through an album? Maybe it's your grandmother's house, but there aren't many albums left in the world. Why? Because they're in the new world. They're in the digital world. My mom had 4 albums with about, I don't know, 400 pictures in the albums. 4 albums, 100 pictures apiece. This phone here, and I have several of them, but this one has over 50,000 photos. Now, I enjoy the photos, all right? I enjoy the photos in this. I enjoy the photos in this phone as much and probably more than I've ever enjoyed the photos in an album. I can pull them up anytime. I can edit them how I want to, and so forth and so on, right? Let me show you. Let me show you. I will show you this. This is what has been sucked into the new world. Look at, what is this? Look at my baby. Can you see it? There she is. Boom. Nala. I have more pictures of her in my phone than my mother had of me my whole life in 4 albums. You see, the digital world sucked our photos into it. It caused our photos to leave the physical analog world and enter the new frontier, the new world. Our movies left the physical world. I had a movie theater in my home that first used VHS cassette tapes. I had a collection across the wall of every popular movie in history. Then I had to actually spend tens of thousands of dollars to convert those VHSs to a disc when that technology came into play. And then Blu-ray. Today, I have access to millions upon millions of movies that I can't touch, feel, or even see. My movies have been sucked into the digital world. Our information, our maps, our books, our relationships. I have deeper relationships with people that I've never met. I spend time with them every single day playing the markets. Every single day we trade every single day. I've never met them, never shaken their hands, never had an opportunity to look them directly in the eye in person. But I wish their kids happy birthday. Sometimes their kids pop on the screen and say, "Hi, Oliver." I have some deeper relationships with people digitally than I have with people that are part of my own family. Our relationships are in the digital world. Our photos, our movies, our books, our information, our knowledge, our education, our relationships, our everything except one thing. You see, what the internet failed to do was it failed to capture money. And so enter Bitcoin, which the baton was passed from the internet, which did a great job digitizing our world. And it handed the baton over to Bitcoin and says, I, I can't take it any further. I can't do money. And the baton has been passed to the second phase of the internet. You see, the first phase was the internet of information and knowledge. Bitcoin is the second phase, which is the internet of money. And how much bigger is money than your photos and your movies and your freaking books? Bitcoin has come as its first, not its last, but its first role is to take over where the internet left off and tackle the biggest thing on planet Earth: money, human value. And it is sucking money out of the analog world, sucking value out of the orange, the gold rock, and sucking money out of paper, and sucking money out of bonds, and sucking money out of equities. It's sucking money out of the analog world into a new realm, into the new realm, the new frontier, the digital frontier. And here's what's amazing about that. You see, what gets transferred from the analog world to the digital world becomes exponentially bigger and more valuable. We have many examples of this, right? So, for instance, how many pictures can you hold in an album? My mother had maybe 400, 600, something like that, in albums, right? But yet I have 50,000 in just one phone, and I can go higher. So what happened? Photos went from you having 2, 3, 4, 600 to having thousands more in the digital world. All right. The analog phone, we can look up what the cost of an analog phone is, right? Analog phone cost. Let's do this. I want to send you through an. All right. So take a look at this. Smoke on this for a second. What I want to demonstrate to you is how whatever transfers over from the analog to the digital becomes greater in number and greater in value. So look at my hands. Greater in number and greater in value. So greater in number and greater in value. The value rises. The number of items increases, and the value rises, right? So the number of photos increased going to the digital world from an album, a physical world, the analog, and more valuable. You can buy an analog phone today, right? You can buy an analog phone today for what? Well, what is this cost saying? What, $20, $30, whatever. You know the analog phones with a cord on it and the buttons you have to press. These are like 20, $30, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So $20, $30 for an analog phone. You get the point. Okay. But the cost for an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Oh, I have this in These are in, I'm sorry that it's in, shit, what the heck is that? It's in Colombian pesos because I'm in Colombia, but you know what I'm saying. What is it, like close to $2,000? So the analog phone you can have for anywhere from 15 to 40 bucks. The digital phone you can have for $1,000 to $2,000. Now, here's what's crazy. There's more smartphones in the world than there are toilets. Are you freaking kidding me? There's more smartphones in the world than there are working toilets. There's far more smartphones in the world than analog phones with the cord on them. So we went from analog to digital. So we increased the number of digital and increased the value of them. There is nothing that goes to the digital world that does not become more voluminous and more valuable. Nothing. We have another example, right, of this. We have another example of this, don't we? Physical mail. We used to send millions of physical letters a day in the United States. Now there's billions of mail sent every single day via the internet, via email. So more voluminous, right? More volume, more. But the most poignant example, in my opinion, is the story of Blockbuster and Netflix. You see, Blockbuster was that mega rental movie company that was a star back in the 1990s. It was one of the fastest growing companies in the history of the world. It was on top of the world, raking in obscene amounts of money. Its growth was off the charts. Some of you might remember going to your local Blockbuster and trying to catch one of the 14 copies that they were going to get of the next new release. I remember. Netflix came on the scene, had some initial trouble, even offered themselves to be bought by Blockbuster, and Blockbuster turned them down. Now, at the height of Blockbuster's at the height of Blockbuster's dominance, at the height of Blockbuster's dominance, it was worth $3 billion at its peak. You see that? Just take a look at it. $3 billion, Blockbuster. Now, okay, let's take a look at this. Netflix's valuation is 17.7 billion. That's as of 2021. It's bigger now. So nothing, my point is this, people, nothing that goes from the analog world to the digital world goes down or stays the same. It becomes exponentially more valuable. 17, 18 billion is exponentially more valuable than 3 billion. 50,000 photos here versus 400 in an album is exponentially more. A $30 analog phone versus a $2,000 digital phone. You get my point. So everything that goes there blows up. Everything. Physical mail could only send millions. Now we can send billions because it's digital, right? And the examples go on and on. So let me just show you this with this in mind. All right. Since we know everything that gets pulled into the digital becomes orders of magnitude bigger and more valuable. Everything, right? Everything. Check this out. Let me show you where we're going. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. Check this out, where we're going. Check this out. This is crazy. Now, make myself small here. Take a look at this. Bitcoin is the 10th most valuable asset on earth. Do you see that? With just less than 1% adoption, Bitcoin is the 10th most valuable thing. It is more valuable than Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Do you realize that Berkshire Hathaway is over 200 years old? Not Warren Buffett, but the company itself is. It's more valuable than Tesla. It's more valuable than Walmart. It's more valuable than JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the world. It's more valuable than Visa. It's more valuable than Exxon Mobil. It's more valuable than the S&P 500 in totality. That's just crazy. The top 500 companies in the world combined. Well, that's not true, but at least the trust is more valuable than the entire ETF trust. All right. You get the point. More valuable than MasterCard, more valuable than, you get the point. Even Netflix down here, Bank of America. My point is that it's done this with less than 1% adoption. You understand? Less than 1%. Let me see, make sure you can see this. So it's done this with less than 1% adoption. So imagine 3%, 5%, 10%, 60%. Now, here's what I want to show you. All right? Here's what I want to show you. Go to number 1. You see number 1 here? That's number 1. You see number 1. What world is number 1 in? Somebody tell me why while I sip my tea. Is number 1 in the analog world or the digital world? So the number 1 asset in the world that has the highest value, it is estimated. Nobody knows how much gold is in the world, by the way. So this is just a rough estimate. 18 trillion. It's the most valuable asset in the world. All right. We're estimating the value at 18 trillion. Is it in the analog world or the digital world? Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me. I'll wait. I know we're on a delay. I know live real time is not really real time. Of course. It's in the analog world, right? Of course it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Bitcoin is in the digital world, right? Now, we have an analog gold and a digital gold. We've already established the fact that nothing that is digital remains lower than its analog counterpart. Nothing stays the same value as its analog counterpart. We've already established that everything that's digital, the digital counterpart of the analog thing, is exponentially more than the analog thing. It's the case with every single thing that has ever moved or has had a counterpart in the digital realm. The digital counterpart has become exponentially more. So where is Bitcoin going? If gold is its analog counterpart, and digital is and Bitcoin is the digital counterpart, people, Where are we going? Are we going to 18 trillion? Are we going to 18 trillion? Well, did the iPhone go to a $30 analog phone, or did it surpass a $30 analog phone? Did the pictures in my phone go to the number of pictures in my albums before there were smartphones, or did the number of pictures go way past that? Did Netflix go to the $3 billion valuation of Blockbuster, or did it exponentially go beyond the valuation of Blockbuster? Is Bitcoin going to go to 18 trillion, or is it going to go exponentially beyond 18 trillion? You see where I'm getting at, people? Do you see how early we are? Do you understand this? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? This is crazy, right? It's wild when you look at it like that. This is not, some people say Oliver's a moon boy. Well, okay, I actually take pride in that. But the point I'm trying to really communicate is that this is not moon math. I am using historical precedent here. You can't find me one example to prove me wrong. There isn't any. Every digital counterpart of an analog thing does not just go to the value of the analog thing, it goes exponentially past it. Netflix went exponentially past Blockbuster, and Bitcoin's going to go exponentially past gold. Email went exponentially past physical mail, licking the back of disgusting envelopes and going, I'm going to mail my letter. I'm going to mail my letter. Like, we went exponentially beyond that bullshit. The numbers of photos I have went exponentially beyond the numbers of photos I used to collect in albums. I have more books. I have more books on this Kindle than my mother had in all of her library. My mother was a librarian. I pretty much lived in the library after school. But I will tell you that I have more books than my mother's library had here. And Bitcoin's value is going to be exponentially more than gold's value. It has happened every single time in freaking history. And this is not an exception. And look at what Bitcoin has done. It has got to position 10, mind you, with less than 1% of the world adopting it. Number 10 in the world. I say by the end of 2025, we are number 2. I think Bitcoin takes out all of these in less than a year. Now, that might sound like a tall order to you. I think we take out Meta. I think all of that's gone. We're probably not going to take out gold yet. That's next cycle. But this cycle, I think we take out all of that BS right there. Now, what do we need to be to take out Apple at about 160 with today's decline? About 160,000. Do you know how freaking close 100? Guys, do you understand how that 160,000 is a stone's throw for Bitcoin? That's a freaking stone's throw. 160,000 would be a disappointment by next year. using Bitcoin's historical past. Do you understand? Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. Let me put it this way. A lot of people say, and I certainly understand this, people. A lot of people say, let me get rid of this, that last cycle, Bitcoin's last cycle was muted. And I'm a supporter of that thesis. It was muted largely by the China mining ban, which cut Bitcoin's hash rate in half. Nothing else really did it. It was that, in my opinion. But let's work off of Bitcoin's muted cycle. I want you to understand that Bitcoin, let me get a calculator up here. That Bitcoin, let me do this in your faces. Can I do it in your face? En tus caras. I want to do it in your face. Let me do this in your face. Yeah. Yes, Oliver. I want you to do it in my face. Okay. I'm going to do it in your face then. All right, look. So the low of last cycle was 3,200, right? But the high of last cycle was 69. So 69,000. It was actually more like 4,000. Why is this not working? Okay, so let me do it. I have to do it for real. Okay, so we're going to do it like this, right? I'm going to show you. So 69,000. Let's do 69,400 minus 3,200 was the cycle low. Divided by 3,200, you 21x'd off the low. I want you to understand this number. This was, people, listen to me carefully. This was the freaking muted cycle. The smallest cycle. The one that was muted, the one that was cut in half. We 21 times the low. Now, let's say we have the same cycle. Let's say it's the same. Let's do this, okay? So we have the low. Let's do this. I freaking love it. All right, so we got the low of 15,000. Let's call it 15,000. So we're going to work with 15,500. Did that wrong? 15,500. All right, times 20. Do you understand where I'm going with this? This is using the most muted cycle of all. A cycle, mind you, before we had regulatory clarity, a cycle before we had spot Bitcoin ETF approvals, the cycle before we had some of the largest money managers on planet Earth contributing to the marketing of Bitcoin, before FASB rule changes, making it no longer punitive for publicly traded companies to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets, before small countries began to adopt it, before all of this, before pension funds started to put it on their balance sheet, before US states putting it in their bylaws, protecting it, before the US became the largest hash rate producer in the world, before most of the Bitcoin mining world is in various states in the United States, before all of this, a cycle before this, and we're still using the same muted metrics as if none of that's here now. And that gets you 310. Now, All we need is 160 to become number 2 in the world. 160,000, Bitcoin takes out everything else except gold. Do you understand this? It's freaking insane. Wow. Tell me you understand. You may not agree with me, but tell me you understand what I just laid out there. Tell me tell me you understand how I'm coming up with this number that by next year, by the end of next year, we should be past 160, which makes Bitcoin number 2 in the world. Even using last cycle's muted metrics, as if we're going to have China ban mining again. As if none of the things that have happened since then matters. It is crazy, right? This is not moon math. This is not something that I freaking came up with in a dream, a Disney dream. This is basic analysis. Well, Oliver, the past performance is no guarantee or future results. But Oliver, the past is not guaranteed to it. That. I know that, bozo. Can we just stop saying that? Because the only thing you have is the freaking past. If we don't use the past, what are we going to use? The future? Like what if you don't use the past, what do? You just twiddle your thumbs and just freaking throw a dart at the air? You gotta use the past. I know the past is not a guarantee, but it's the only freaking thing we have to use. Otherwise, you sit there like a freaking idiot and do nothing. So we gotta use the past. It's the only thing we have. So I wish people would stop saying that. Well, Oliver, the past is no guarantee of the future. Just stop it. Just stop it. It's the only thing we have to use. We got to use it. All right. So you've got today, guys, people selling. Listen to this, right? Check this out. I got to show you this. After everything I've shown you, right? Which is not rocket science. It's pretty basic shit, right? It's basic analysis. There's nothing rocket science about this, right? Let me show you this. You've got, let's put the freaking 4-hour chart on here. You've got people selling Bitcoin. Are you freaking kidding? Selling Bitcoin because of Iran? Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, people. You're selling the best performing asset in all recorded history, the best performing asset in the world this year, the best performing asset in the world over the last 2 years, the best performing asset in the world in all of recorded history, the hardest money to ever exist, the hardest asset, the 10th most valuable asset in the world, the asset that has become worth $1 trillion faster than any other asset, the most adopted technology in the history of mankind, having accomplished all of this with less than 1% adoption, with 99% adoption left in the future. And you're selling Bitcoin because of Iran? Are you stupid or are you stupid? Really? because of Iran. Holy shit. My father used to say, Oliver, you can't fix stupid. Don't even try. You're wasting your time. You can't fix stupid. Now that is stupid. You know, I used to call periods like this. I had a term for this for my traders, right? I used to call it panic profits. It was literally a strategy, panic profits. So, what you would do with this strategy, guys, I'll explain it to you, is you would find something that you knew was valuable, that there was no doubt that it was valuable, but that its price was hit by something that has nothing to do with that item, but it's being just thrown out the, along with the baby in the bath. The baby is being thrown out with the bathwater as well. So you find something that you know is valuable, but its price is affected stupidly by something that doesn't even affect it, that its price is being dumped by for reasons that are so disconnected to it that it has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Iran has nothing to do with Bitcoin. No country, no nation state, no war, no human being, no power can ever touch or affect Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's being a dump because of Iran, of all countries. Iran? This is a opportunity to pick up panic profits. That's what I used to call them, panic profits. These always get reversed. And mark my words, as certain as night follows day, this drop will be erased in short order like it never happened. Why? Because it's stupid. It's declining for something that has nothing to do with it. I could see if it was declining because China banned mining again. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. If anything, it makes freaking Bitcoin more valuable. And so these things always reverse every single time a drop is for reasons that's not connected to the drop, to the item itself. It gets quickly reversed. Do you understand? Do you remember what happened during March of 2020? Most things got quickly reversed because the drop had nothing to do with them. But Bitcoin reversed faster. So the fastest horse in the race, we know it's Bitcoin. The fastest horse in a race reverses the hardest, reverses the fastest, and reverses the biggest. This is your COVID moment before the blast off again. This is just dumb, but I'm glad it's here. Do you understand? I'm not complaining. If you follow me, I just want you smarter than this. That's all. I just, I need you smarter than this because listen, I just don't like to hang around dumb people. Like, ew, ew. I don't, I'm afraid to hang around dumb people. I just think that sometimes their dumbness can rub off on me. Ew, ew. Stay away. Stay away. If you're dumb, stay away from me. I know I'm crazy. I know. Crazy. That's right. Juan says, please let him dump it so I can so I and BlackRock can buy it back. Yes. My man. Eat chiles. Love it. That's right. Yeah, right. So you sold Bitcoin for what? Like, what did you sell it for? Crazy. Do I think this is the final drop before the run to the upside? I do. I'm using history, guys. So I will leave you with this. This is why you've got just a very few short weeks at best. If history's any guide, and it is, I told you, it's the only guide we have. We don't have another guide outside of history guide. Unless you know of a guide other than history, please let me know. I mean, I've just been using history my whole life. You understand? So I will leave you with this. This is very powerful. I will leave you with this. All right. And let me show you this. Let's go back. Now, what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to remove all this nonsense here. I'm going to go back to I'm going to go to a weekly chart. There's a weekly time frame, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to go back. This is this cycle, right? So this is the $15,000 low. And look at how bullish this is. People say, Oliver, what's wrong with Bitcoin? What the heck are you talking about, dude? This is bullish, right? So let me tell you why you're weeks at most away from this occurring. All right. So let's go back to last halving. We're going to go back to the last halving, right? Which is 2020. But let's go back to the same time. Let's go back to October 1st, 2020. So here's 2020, and here is October 1st, right here. You see it? I'll do it like this. Do you see where you are? Tell me, somebody tell me. I know we're working on a delay here, so I will wait. Somebody tell me. This is where we are. This is the same place we are today, last cycle, last halving year, right before presidential election time. Do you see this? Do you see what's right around the corner if history repeats itself? Do you see this? Tell me, somebody. Do you see this? Yes? Okay. That's right. Identical, right? Pretty identical, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. Good. 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 Now, I'm not finished with you. Check this out. Check this out. Do you see how long we seem to come up to this area and drop? This is more than a year. Look, more than a year. June. Here's another June and months later. So you got June to June and then some. Do you see this? Yes, you see this, right? Same thing as why can't Bitcoin get past this? Same BS, right? But it's even worse. It's even worse. Check this out. I'm not finished with you. It's worse. Check this out. It's longer than a year. So watch this. Watch this. Smoke on this. Remember, it's from all the way back here. So if you go back since 2018, it couldn't really surpass. It would surpass a little bit and fall back. It couldn't surpass from 2018, guys, 18 all the way to almost 2021. How many freaking years is that? You understand the frustration is the same that many people are going through now. What's the matter with Bitcoin? It's just freaking repeating itself. But do you see what is upon us? Do you see why all these months I've been saying you've got until about a couple weeks before presidential election time, and then it's over? Stack harder because this is going this is going to outprice you, bozos. That's right. You understand? How many times have you heard people say, well, you know, Bitcoin hasn't done anything since 2021? Same thing here. Bitcoin hasn't done this is where there's but Oliver, Bitcoin hasn't done anything since 2021. It was here at 2021. Same thing I heard last cycle. Bitcoin, Oliver, but Bitcoin hasn't done anything since 2018. It's the same movie, guys. Repeated over and over and over again. The same shit. It's like, do they pick up the same freaking book? Are they still in the analog world and they go get the same book and read from the same book? But Oliver, Bitcoin hasn't done anything for the last 3 years. It's the same. Now, I experienced it last cycle. I'm experiencing it this cycle, but I read about it every other cycle on forums and shit. Nothing repeats so closely as Bitcoin. Nothing in the world. Why? Why is Bitcoin so repeatable? Why is it more repeatable than anything else we've ever known? Why does it deliver this level of certainty that no other asset has ever delivered like this? Why? Because it's maths. Nothing in the world can change the fact that 1 + 1 = 2. Nothing in the world can change the fact that on average in the next 10 minutes there's another block. Nothing in the world can change the fact that in 2016 blocks, the Bitcoin network is going to go through a difficulty adjustment. Do you understand? It's a mathematical protocol. It is not influenced by world events, interest rates. Remember that? Oh, well, Bitcoin is Oliver, but Bitcoin has never lived through an interest rate hike cycle. It's never done that before. Boom, all-time new highs during the fastest hike, one of the fastest hikes in history. You know? For the first time, people, we have certainty at a very high level. For the first time in the history of the human race, in our desperate search for truth, reliability, honor, authenticity, reliability. Man has been in search of these things, and for the first time we have it. We've never had certainty. We've never had honor. Man has failed man in these categories forever. Everything that man created failed us. Every person in your life has failed you at one point or another. If you are a parent, I know I'm a parent. Your children have failed you at one point or another. I know this. If you are a child and you have parents, I know I'm a child too. At one point or another, your parents failed you. I know this. Your significant other, wife or husband, at some point, I know they failed you. I know. Everyone. Some of you believe your God failed you. Do you understand that the only thing human beings have today that's never broken a promise, that has never failed, that has never altered itself, that has never stopped being what it promised it was going to be? It never broke a promise, never changed on you like a flip-flopping politician, never changed the game on you, never cheated you, always kept his word, never sick at sea, never took a day off, never down over the past 10 years, not an instant, not a nanosecond, never failed you. And it gives you these long periods of its train, its freedom, stays in the station with a freaking welcoming sign, get on board. And all some of you bozos have to say, you greet that generosity. You greet it with, but Oliver, Bitcoin hasn't done anything since 2021. And that's how you pay back its generosity before blast off. The fact that it is staying put for your dumbass to get educated enough to recognize what it is. And you spit in its face, but Oliver, it hasn't done anything since 2021. And that's how you treat the most honorable thing we've ever had available to us. And for the first time, it's the little guy, it's the regular guy, it's us that are first. Respect this, people. Do not deny the Savior. Now, I don't want to offend anybody and say that Bitcoin is the ultimate savior, but it is one of the saviors in our lives. That you can guarantee. To a drowning man, a lifeboat is the savior. I am telling you, this is your lifeboat. Don't disrespect it. Do not deny your savior. Because I promise you, in the next few months, you're going to regret it. And it will be something, it will be a regret that lives in one form or another. It'll live with you forever. There are people to this very day that had Bitcoin. There are people to this very day that had Bitcoin, people. Do you understand this? They had Bitcoin. And they disrespected it. Greg Schoen, which I've shown you numerous times. I wish I kept my 1,700 BTC, which I bought at 6 cents. Instead of selling them at 30 cents, that's a big gain, 6 cents to 30 cents, especially now that they're $8. I ask you, how do you feel that Mr. Greg Schoen feels today? Do you feel that this regret of letting Bitcoin go at 6 cents, well, at $8, I'm saying, no, at 30 cents, sorry. You think that every single time Bitcoin's in the news, this is not remembered? You think that every single time an individual, he comes across a Bitcoin podcast, this is not remembered? Every single time someone mentions Bitcoin, this is not remembered? Every single time there an announcement BlackRock bought another X number of Bitcoin. This is not remembered. Every single time MicroStrategy just raised $1.2 billion to buy more Bitcoin. This is not remembered. This guy will live with this forever. Imagine what the feeling's going to be at 1 million. Or when Bitcoin's number 2 in the world next year. I promise you, if you disrespect this, you will be Gregged too. I know it. Some of you are going to get rid of this like it's just another freaking stepping stone to your little dirty fiat currency. You say you appreciate it and love it for what it is, but really in the back of your mind, it's just a little something for me to use like my stool to get to more dollars. That's disrespecting it. And I promise you this, you will be another meme. You will be Gregged. Not me. I'm not getting Gregged. You might get Gregged, not me. Guys, we got one. We got one. It was all worth it. I've been talking an hour and 27 minutes. It's all worth it. Miguel says, where should I buy my first Bitcoin now? Binance or Coinbase? To be honest with you, I don't care where you freaking buy it. If I would say, I would prefer that you buy it from a Bitcoin only firm like Strike or Swan, or I would prefer that. I don't like rewarding these firms that they use Bitcoin to get you in just to market their bullshit to you. Because that's where their real money is. They can't really make real money off Bitcoin, but they can make money off the ship coins. That's where their real longest green is. They use Bitcoin as a stepping stone to pull you in and then market the hell out of their bullshit. Hate that. Don't disrespect Bitcoin. Strike, Swan, start there. Unchained Capital if you want to go that route. But if you want to get Bitcoin right now, quickly open up an account with Strike or Swan. River, yes. Can't believe I forgot River. River, Strike, Swan, all of them. Get off zero. I don't know what the right number is for you, but I know it's not zero. All right, guys. Love you to death. I'm going to go grab something to eat now. I hope you don't mind my rants here, guys, but I feel like they're necessary. And for the Miguels of the world, this is very special to me, Miguel. Listen, Miguel, you DM me anytime you need to on x.com. You have any questions, I'm there for you. Get your first Bitcoin. All right, guys. Love you to death. Love you to death. I'm hard on you sometimes, but it's a good hardness. Some people say, Oliver, why are you so toxic? Why are you so like rough? Doesn't the carrot approach get more people to listen to you, whatever? No. You understand that the building is on freaking fire. You don't have time for me to be singing lullabies in your freaking ear. Oh, Johnny, the building's on fire. We only have a few seconds to leave, but I'm going to whisper very politely in your ear, and I'm going to make sure I don't startle you out of your sleep, because God forbid if you wake up in a panic, No, I'm going to shake you as violently as I possibly can and yell as loud as I possibly can in your sleepy ass ear. Get up, bozo. The house is on fire. There's the exit. Go. But Oliver, my sneakers, my favorite sneakers. F the sneakers. Let's get out now. Boom, knock you upside the head. That's what gets you out of a burning building. Not, but wait a minute, Johnny. Well, let me sit down and explain the situation. All right. Would you like some tea? We don't have time. You've been priced out of 10,000. You've been priced out of tens of thousands of Bitcoin. You've been priced out of thousands of Bitcoin. You've been priced out of hundreds of Bitcoin. You're being priced out of one now. Then you're going to be priced out of halves and quarters. We don't have time. So get to work. Stack harder. All right, guys. Ciao. Boom. Boom. All right. Ciao, guys.